What's going on, people? Know what you want. You have to know what you want in order to be able to achieve it. That's what I'm speaking about in this episode 1 of my podcast. Hope you enjoy it.
What do you want? Now, the reason why I ask this question is a lot of us independent emerging artists always come up with some cliche nonsense of, I just want to make it. I want to make it. Recently, I've been kind of digging into that a little bit when I'm speaking to people. And I'm like, okay, make it. What does make it mean?
What's going on, people? My name is Tony Az, and I'm a rapper that loves singing, making music 20 years, semi-seriously 10 years, very seriously the last 2 years. This podcast provides tips and ideas for emerging independent artists.
So in today's episode, I want to talk about what you want. Now, I ask these questions because for a long time, I had this same mentality. Yeah, I just want to make it, just want to bust. Okay. But what does make it actually mean? Do you mean make it like Drake and Ed Sheeran, or make it like, Liam McHenry or Odyssey or St. John? Now, these are names that you might not have heard of, obviously bar the Drake and Ed Sheeran. But what if I was to tell you, people like Liam McHenry and St. John, if they're not already millionaires from doing this thing, they're definitely pulling in 5 figures a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So what does make it really mean to you? Is it make it in the sense of you walk down the street and everyone's going to know who you are, but yet you're broke? Is it make it in the sense of, you can pay all your bills and living expenses, but yet might still be anonymous? Like, what does make it actually mean? And there's no right or wrong answer. The only reason why I ask this question is, I think to really achieve anything, we have to be specific about what it is we're trying to achieve, what it is we're trying to accomplish. And we need to be able to articulate it, not to impress anyone, but even just for our own selves, to remind ourselves in those days where the going gets tough and all that. Like, what are you actually doing? Like, what do you want? Now, if I give you me, for example, for a long time, I never really could specifically tell you what I wanted. I might have just said something loose like, yeah, I just want to bust. I want to make it. But I never really broke down what that actually means. So now in present day, I can tell you what I want is, first and foremost, to be able to pay all my household bills from doing music and music-related activities. Okay? I want to be able to pay all my household bills by making music and doing music-related activities. Now, so I could delve a bit deeper and say, okay, well, how much are my household expenses? Now, let's say, for example, my household expenses per month were £1,000. Then my current definition of making it, or my initial definition of making it, and in terms of what I want is, I want to make £1,000 per month from doing music-related activities. Simple as that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? That's how we got to get to. And then the other thing I would definitely stress is, if you're on a make a living or making money from this thing, which I implored everyone to be on, by the way, let's walk before we can run. So here I said my initial thing is I want to be able to pay my expenses, which might be £1,000 a month, might even be less if I really break it down and get a bit stringent with what I'm spending my money on. But let's say, gas, electric, rent, etc. comes to £1,000. Initially, that's what I want. Once I master that, then my next phase is, okay, I want to double up. I want to be able to pay my bills and also have made an extra £1,000 per month. And then I build from there. Do you get what I mean? Because some of us will say things like, oh, I want to get rich off of this thing. But then I could ask you, well, firstly, what does rich even mean? Because rich to me and rich to you might be different from what rich to Jay-Z is, for example. What rich to Bill Gates is, for example. So what does rich actually mean? These are just phrases that we just throw about that have no real meaning. And then linking into that, which I wanted to talk about on another episode, is in terms of the walking before we run. Let's not leave our day jobs where on average, we're pulling in maybe 1,800, $2,000 a month. On average, if I take the average earner in the UK, earns 25 grand a year, minus your taxes, let's say for argument's sake, you're pulling in 2 grand a month, maybe. Don't go from that and assume that, okay, you're just going to stop doing that and all of a sudden you just want to be making 10 grand a month. You're going to go, like, come on. Like, we have to be realistic with some of these goals. Be specific and be realistic with some of these goals. Obviously, not to say you can't earn 10 grand a month. Of course you can. But to go from 0 to 10 grand a month just like that, let's be realistic. And then also, to even be putting that kind of pressure on ourselves when you are quite happy to work 8-10 hours a day doing a job you don't like and you're getting far less than that. And you're putting in hours a day, which I'm going to do a whole nother podcast about the amount of hours we put in per day relative to the amount of money we say we want to make. That's a whole nother episode. But I just wanted to leave it on that. Like, point number one, stage number one, ground zero, ground number one. Before we do anything, figure out exactly what you want and be able to articulate exactly what you want. If you want to make it, say you want to make it. But what does make it mean? What do you mean make what? You want a number one single? You want to be top 10? You want to be top 40? You want to make a living out of this? How much is making a living? How much money you trying to make? Etc, etc. So that's going to be episode 1. I hope this has helped you. And that's it. Know what you want. Signing out. Tony Az. Tony Az Official on everything.
So that's the end of today's episode. I really hope it brought you value. Do leave me a comment and let me know. In the meantime, check out my book, 10 Terrible Tips, Misleading Misinformation About Making It in Music, available from my website, TonyAzOfficial.com.
We're going.
Yo, follow me on Instagram as well, at TonyAzOfficial.
Where we go, we don't know it yet.